Welcome to chess, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, man, I figure I'll go to the beach real quick. Nah, I'm playing, man. I'm like 500, 600 miles away from a beach, man. So, yeah. Anyways, man, we got like a little lake where I'm at, but yeah. No beaches, though. But anyway, man, welcome to chess, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate you guys very much for stopping by. So, I did go back and picked a game out of the 2022 Rapid Chess Championship. And this is between Fabiano Caruana and Wesley. So of course, for all of my people that are coming from the Philippines, I would say mabuhay, salamat. I appreciate you guys very much for taking a look at my stuff. But yeah, man, if you guys are ready to go, homie, let's take a look, see what we got for this game. All right, so we got the move E4. We got E5. Knight goes to F3. Knight to C6. Bishop to B5. White wins. No, I'm playing. I'm just playing. I'm choking, guys, man. Don't take me serious, homie. But we do see knight to f6, and we have the Berlin defense, and we have the move d3. So we're not going into any of the, like, you know, castles, knight takes situations, or d4 situations going on. We're just, you know, we're just like, hey, we're just going to solidify our pawn structure and be good to go. So the bishop does come to c5. We got the move c3, multi-purpose move. I mean, you don't really want any knights jumping in, and we are creating a little space for our bishop, which you will see coming up. It does make some sense. We do see castles by black, castles by white. Rook goes to e8, bishop goes to g5. And, I mean, we have elected to get our bishop out first. I know a lot of the times when you guys see this opening, you guys see knight b coming to d2 first, like a rook to e1, knight coming back, and then you have kind of the option either way. You're a little flexible, and then you kind of get your bishop out after that. But we do see the reverse in this particular situation. We do see a6, bishop goes to a4. We got h6, bishop back to h4. We got the move d6. The rook goes over to e1. We got bishop back to a7. I mean, you didn't necessarily have to move the bishop back to a7, but we do like to maintain this diagonal because if this bishop just ever happens to kind of leave this little small diagonal, I mean, we do kind of have a tender point going on. So we do have knight b to d2. We got g5. Bishop backing up to g3. And, I mean, you do definitely want to be careful just pushing these pawns out in front of your king. But because, you know, white doesn't really have, like, a lot of pieces over here threatening. We don't have the bishop to b3. So we're not really, you know, kind of pinning pawns. We don't have a whole lot of pieces kind of hanging out in this area. You know, it's not as dangerous for black. This is actually pretty standard stuff. And then we do see the move b5, which is coming up to the novelty of the game. Bishop to c2 is the novelty of the game. But like I told you guys before, I mean, c3, not only was it cutting off the knight's ability to kind of hop into white's position, but, I mean, we were creating some, you know, bishop luft for our bishop a little bit later on. So, I mean, move makes a lot of sense. But it is the novelty of the game. We do see the knight going back to e7. Knight goes down to f1. We got knight to g6. We do have d4, and then the knight does come to h5. And you see that we just kind of have a lot of maneuvering going on. I mean, we got the bishop coming out and swinging back around. We got the knight going from here, swinging over here. Knight jumping over here. Bishop coming out here, going back. So, I mean, this is a very positional type of game. So it's not like crazy open with a bunch of wild, crazy tactics. But we have actually reached a position that if you do want to pause the video, there is a very, very nice move that white can play in this position. So if you want to pause the video and try to find that move, go ahead and do so. Okay, cool. So I think a lot of you guys actually see it. If you move this knight out of the way, you kind of see what I mean, right? The knight is just hanging on h5. But it's not, it's a little bit more like complicated than that. It's not just completely black and white, but you definitely do have some tactics here in the position. And we do see the move knight takes e5. If you found that move, congratulations. You did notice that this knight is hanging after that. But there's actually a right way to kind of go about playing this as white, and there's a wrong way, right and wrong way to go about playing this. And so one of them, you have to kind of do a lot of work after you play this particular move. The other one, it's like, I mean, super kind of easy going forward. So we do see the knight taking e5 first, and the critical point is here. There's actually, like I said, a certain way that you need to kind of play this to make sure that, you know, you do get the biggest bang for your buck. If not, then you kind of have a game on your hands. And the move in this particular situation is not queen takes h5. You do want to do something else before you take on h5. And so this is what we actually see in the game. So this is the way Fabiano plays the game, which, I mean, it's not like it was like a mistake, but it does really kind of like put you in a little bit of a pickle, and it really kind of makes it a game. And that's actually one of the good things about it, because it does make it really, really nice to show as far as this is concerned. After we see queen takes h5, we do see the immediate bishop to g4, and you can kind of see what I mean. I mean, you got queen taking h6, and then you have a rook to e6, and the queen is actually trapped in this position. So the best thing to do would actually be to take on e6. So basically what you have to do, if you go into this particular thing immediately, you do have to play without a queen. And so basically, is your imbalance good enough type situation, right? So, after we saw knight taking e5, it's actually much better to take with the bishop here on e5. And then after the pawn takes, then you take on h5 and you allow the captures. Knight goes to g3. Even if they want to keep going on and taking on c3, you do have the move e5. And I mean, you're infiltrating into this position right here, homie. For sure, for sure. So yeah, I mean, it's a really, really nice position for white to be in. Like I said, you do kind of have to give up a little bit of material, but I mean, you have a pretty monstrous attack going on over here. Kind of, sort of. But anyways, going back to what we had in the game, like I said, we did see this position where we did get in this position here. And I mean, the knight has been hanging this entire time, but it's all Gucci, as they say. So we do see queen taking e6, like I said. And then we have it's an interesting move. Like, you didn't absolutely have to play it. But it does kind of mess up white structure a little bit, and that is just giving the knight away this way. Instead of just allowing it to be captured on e5, you just give it away on f3. And this does, you're going to be winning the queen at some point anyway, so it doesn't really matter what you do. So, you might as well kind of get, go down swinging, as I say, right? So the pawn does take on f3, and then the bishop takes on e6, and then we have the move f4. And like I said, this is a really imbalanced position, so this is like really a game that you got to play. So pawn takes f4, bishop takes f4. We got queen down to f6. Now the queen is trying to get itself into the position. Now you are down a single piece, but you are completely up a queen. So it basically comes down to how is black going to play with their extra, power, and what is white going to do with the extra material. And both of these players actually play really, really well after this point. We do see bishop to g3, and we got the move c5, and then we have the move d5. And what you really, really want to do, which is really kind of hard to do as white, you really kind of want to block this bishop out of the game, because the more you can restrict black's pieces, the more your pieces can kind of be of more value, especially since you're going against the queen right now. The bishop does come to h3. We see the move e5. And we do have pawn takes e5, rook takes e5. Now, backing up, some of you guys might have noticed after the move e5, like, can't I just go queen to f3? And I mean, we're mating and stuff, right? Well, if the queen did come to f3, we do have knight to e3, and that is the complete saving move in the position. Like, you're not getting mated on g2 because the knight would be covering. So let's cover that. So like I said, we do get into this position here. We got the move c4, and this does open up the bishop on that diagonal. We got the rook a to e1. We got the rook over to f8. We see knight over to d2. And then we actually see bishop to g4, and this is actually a blunder. This allows white to basically completely take over the game. And I mean, win with the imbalance of not having their queen. After we see knight going to e4, the bishop is holding this rook, so that's why this move is possible. The queen does come down to f3, and then we do see bishop to d1. And this puts black in a really, really bad pickle, because do you save your queen by going over here to d3 and allowing the bishop to just take more material, and you're just going to be down, or do you trade into, where you got the bishop and the rook getting taken? Now, going back to what we had in the game. After the rook did go to f8 and we have knight to d2, it was absolutely imperative that queen to h6 comes, because you need to play dynamically with this f-pawn. This f-pawn can actually shut down a lot. We would see the move probably knight to f3, and then we'd have the move f5, and that's actually a very huge defensive move. Not only is it blocking this bishop, but I mean, it's making, the king be a little bit safer because it's a little bit more open. So the bishop will probably come down to d1, and you see bishop to g4, and you see like how dynamic that f pawn is, right? Backing up after queen to h6, instead of going knight to f3, let's say that white still wanted to try to go knight to f5, right? Well, the problem is that actually completely loses, because after f5, the knight really has nowhere to go. You can't go back here because the queen has defended. So queen to h6 was very, very critical move to have been played at some point. But like I said, we did not see that. After we did see this position that we got into here, Wesley Soldier says, man, I got to kind of, do my thing. So queen takes, rook takes, bishop takes, and we pretty much have a fairly identical position, except for the fact that, white has a monstrous attack going on, and they have, let's see, they have 2 extra pawns in the scenario. So we do see rook to g5. We got king down to h7. We got knight to f6 with check, and you see that white is starting to put black in kind of a box. We do see the king going back to h8, and then we have the move bishop to e5. And it is in this position that Wesley So resigns the game. And I know quite a few of you, I feel like, there's a good percentage of people out there that are looking at the position like, okay, I'm down 2 pawns, but am I just completely lost? Because, am I, in a complete mating box? What's the situation? I feel like there's some way to get out of this, right? There's no, checkmates back here because my rook is right here. I can maybe do something with the bishop. So let's investigate the few moves that you can actually play in the position. Everything is completely lost, but if you were going to play some moves, I can show you a couple of different variations. And I will be able to show you the exact reason as to why this is completely lost for black. So let's say, for example, you go bishop to c2, because you're like, hey, man, I'm going to make sure that I defend this square or something like that, right? Whatever. You would see the move knight to g4 with check, and then, you have 2 options. I'll get into one of the other options in a minute, but let's say you see king to h7, right? You would see rook to g7 with check. The king would go up to h8, a rook taking on f7 with check, the king over to g8, and then you would actually see knight to h6, and this is checkmate. So this is undoubtedly something that wasn't so calculated, but going back to what we had, after the bishop came to e5, you also have the ability to go bishop back to b8, just saying, hey, if you're going to check me with the bishop, I'm going to, I'm going to attack the bishop and try to deflect it away, right? Well, you would actually see the move d6, and this literally changes nothing. You still pretty much have the same scenario that you had before, and we get into this mate. Now, to cover the other situation, let's say, for example, after bishop to e5, let's say you went bishop to f3, a move that really kind of doesn't even do anything. Knight goes to g4, and then, some of you guys probably noticed that you could block with f6, right? If you block with f6, you're pretty much just going to be in this situation, bishop taking f6, and you really don't have anywhere you can go. If you go back king to h7, then you're back in that same mating net that I just showed you, but you're pretty much having to take here like this, and nah, you're just up way too much material, and it doesn't even matter that black has double bishops, you're pretty much going to be losing the game, so. Yeah, don't go down that route, man. So this was a really interesting game, man, for real, because, you had that queen sacrifice, by Fabi, and it's it basically made things even. It wasn't like either side was really better or worse, but as you guys know, it's really difficult to play imbalances and stuff like that, so. It definitely makes the game be a little bit different. So, man, maraming salamat aking makaibigan po sa nanonood ng aking mga video. I really appreciate you guys very much for stopping by. And anybody else around the world, I really appreciate it. And I appreciate all the donations and views and everything. And I'm going to see you guys next time.